partition. So what does mean by swap partition? Okay, how the swap partition can be utilized when the RAM or the actual memory is full. Okay, so why swap memory is creating? So whenever you want to create a swap partition, but where this swap partition is going to come into the play, or how this swap partition is going to help in your system performance, or boosting up your system. Okay, so do you know what does swap will do, or what does the virtual memory will do? Okay, so let's see here. So suppose say you have your what's actual. Okay, I will take one. Okay, so actual what you have here, it is your RAM you have. Okay, so whenever you are opening any applications, active applications, what happens here, it is that it's just jumping into the RAM and open your application from here. Okay, like this you can open your application. So it's occupied some actual real memory from the actual memory, so your RAM space. Okay, so suppose say you have opened a lot of applications here, so those applications is already occupied your memory space, right? So using these all the applications, your memory is almost nearby full. Suppose say you have a 4 GB of RAM, say suppose say, but opening your all your applications on your real time, so your all the memory has been full. Then if you are trying to open any new application, so suppose I want to open a one more Firefox session on this. Okay, but this Firefox session is going to load you after a 2 minutes or 3 minutes late. Why? Because it does not have any free space to open your application, okay, on the memory. So your almost all the memory is full, then how you can open the other application? So it's also required little bit of space on the memory, so you do not have any memory. Then how this memory problem is going to solve here? So what happens, you have all the applications opened, but actively you may work on one or two applications. Actively you may work on one or two applications. Maybe if you have suppose say in my system I have opened, okay, in my system I have opened a putty sessions, and I have opened Photoshop, Skype, all the recording software and all the stuff, but actively I am working on the one screen which is on the background of the notepad, and I am writing something here, that's it. Okay, so what happens to those applications which are opened, a lot of applications I opened but which are inactive for a long time. Okay, so what happens, these applications here, it is that if you create a swap partition or the swap memory, okay, which is that a virtual memory kind of stuff in the Linux. Okay, actually it is a virtual memory only. Okay, so what happens here, it is that whatever the applications which are opened for the long time and which is inactive, which is inactive in the sense which is not the active window currently you are using, okay, then it simply moves to your swap partition. Okay, so here it is my swap partition, it's going to move all the inactive applications to your swap partition. Then so here you already moved this all the applications to here, then you have the free space here, you have free space here. So which means that what happens, so if you are going to open your Firefox as the active application, then it's immediately go and load on the free space, then the application will be opened faster, right? So what happens after some time, you want to open a inactive application and work on that. So if you want to open a inactive application, then as soon as you click on the inactive application, it's again load back to your memory, and it will be active. So likewise what happens here, it is that it's only help you when you have multiple opened applications, and which are few of the applications you have an inactive, then that inactive applications is going to be acted, moved into the swap memory. Okay, which is also called as a virtual memory, which helps your RAM to boost up when you have a lot of inactive applications or inactive sessions opened, lot of connections open to your machine, but that connections does not currently utilized by anybody else, or currently does not utilized by the any user, so that which simply move to a swap space, so you will get a free memory for active applications usage. Okay, simply say that is called as a swap memory. Okay, so that memory which boosts your RAM when you have a lot of inactive applications. Okay, so how we can create a, actually what is the recommended space you have to take a space on the swap. Okay, basically we say here it is that uh, RAM into 2 equal to, okay, whatever the RAM space you have equal to swap space. Okay, but if you take really you have a 200 GB of your RAM space, then into 2 equal to what the swap space is going to be 400 GB. Is really 400 GB you wanted to assign for a particular disk space, you wanted to take a 400 GB from your disk space, that's absolutely not required, right? 400 GB of applications, we are never going to use it in any manner, right? So how it's going to be, so most probably the maximum swap space can be a 10 GB to in between 16 GB. Okay, that would be more than enough for us. Okay, so 10 GB or 16 GB is more than enough for any applications, right? Okay, so this one, so 10 GB or 16 GB is more than any enough for any server applications, or if you have more than a 200 GB of RAM, 250 GB, 256 GB of RAM, any kind of stuff, but 10 GB to 16 GB is swap space is enough. Or if you have the RAM lower than the 8 GB of space, then you can utilize is that up to 8 into 2 equal to 16 GB. Okay, if you have your RAM within 8 GB in limit, then you can say RAM into 2. But if you have your RAM is 200 GB, you cannot say RAM into 2 equal to 400 GB. I have to thumb rule that yes, RAM into 2 is my swap space, then I'm going to utilize 400 GB of my swap space. Then the swap space will be wasted. Does not used in any manner of 400 GB of inactive applications. If you have that many, then your server is going to crash, or your server is going to not able to define that much load. Okay, so like that we are never going to give this much, but most of it probably can give a 10 or 16 GB is more than enough for us our swap partition. Okay, so now let's go ahead and practically see that how we can create our um, swap space. Okay, let's go ahead and see here how you can create f disk -l. Let's see here, I have already have one disk, right? Maybe we already have SDB here. Okay, so before that, how you can see your swap space here, it is that free-m, and you can see that your swap space is 2047. Okay, in the sense 2 GB space I already have in my this application, so this server. I'm going to add one more GB to the swap space. How that's going to work here, let's see here. Okay, so the same way we have to go to fdisk/dv/sdb and create a partition, okay, which may be primary or extended. Before that, you can just print out your partitions and see whether you have how many partitions you already have. So it is saying that 2 primary is already there and 2 is free, so I'm going to create one more primary. Okay, as per our rule, we can create 3 primary or 4 primary or 3 primary or 1 extended. So this is the last of my primary partition I'm going to create. Okay, and I'm say 1 GB of my partition. Okay, let's say, see here, SDB3 has been created with 1 GB in size, but this ID I wanted to change it here. Okay, my third one. And what is the ID? I'm not sure. So what is the ID here? There is an 82 is my ID, Linux swap. Okay, so the code is 82, and let's print out and see it's changed it or not. Linux swap or Solaris partition, it says. Okay, then q and say part probe/dev/sdb now, and my partition table has been updated. Now what you have to do here is that you can just make your swap partition. Okay, mk swap, okay, make swap partition and /dev/sdb3. Okay, now my swap partition has been made. Then before going to update, okay, let's see again. So my swap partition is 2047 currently. If I on swap on the swap device SDB3, then it's going to increase by 1 GB. See, 3071. So which means that my swap space has been increased. Okay, simply if you want to on the go, if you want to swap off, you can simply do a SDB3, so your swap is going to off. Okay, then you can simply say swap on /dev/sdb3, then your swap is going to on. So if you want to do a permanent change on permanently mount your swap partition, you can simply do here. Okay, change here /dev/sdb3, and what is the, there is no mount point for the swap. You just to say swap defaults DFAULDS and 0 / 0, that's it. Okay, there is no mount point for swap, and you can just specify your defaults and 0 / 0, that's it. So your swap is going to on permanently, but I am not going to make this as permanent. Okay, so that's simple. So on the go, if you want to enable a swap partition on the go, suppose say your swap partition is going to full, then if you want to immediately add your swap partition on the go on production environment, you can simply create one more partition, or you can simply add swap on the any a normal file also. The normal files can also be utilized as a swap space. Okay, suppose say you have one file, I want to utilize that file for swap file system. Okay, you can also do that on the sample file. You can also execute that, turn that as a swap file system. Okay, that guide I did not have, but you can just make a search on the Google search. You will definitely get that swap, how we can switch on or switch off the swap on a file. Okay, hello Ankit.
/UTC FS tab ఉంది కదా